Uh, so, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. And we are here on the second session of the third day. I welcome my foreign speaker, Professor Nazmul Islam, and hand over the mic to him to please continue with the session.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now let me share my screen once again. Yeah. Um, we will talk about DAO. And so we will talk about DAO. So what you, again, similar to like yesterday and day before yesterday, you need to go to this website, menti.com, and then use this code to join. And then you need to answer this question, what is DAO? I will put the code in chat, just like before. Then you will have the code there. Let me write the code. 83921593. So I pasted the code on the Teams chat. And let me also give the website address once again. Yeah. Please join there and use the code and answer this question, what is DAO? And I find it is very nice way because then I can see that everyone participates, at least say something, and based on different types of responses, we already know what is it. So the first response has come, self-governing entity, where all members take part in decision making. That's true. Self-governing entity. And how would we do that? How would make something self-governing? Yeah. There we have this blockchain and smart contracts. Okay, somebody else has also written, it is an organization in which there is no central governing body. Yes. Then who governs it? And how the governance happens? And those are the topic of discussion in today's, in this session, I will share. Something governed by smart contracts, yes. So the first answer and the third answer, you can merge them. Then you have self-governing entities where all members take part in decision-making through the means of smart contracts. Okay, so we are learning already. Okay, more answers I'm expecting. Let's wait a few more minutes. Okay, somebody has written, a decentralized autonomous organization is an emerging form of organizational structure where no central governing body and whose members share a common goal of acting in the best interest of the ecosystem, maybe. Yeah, true. But as you can see here, members have the common goal. So the members, if there are there are many stakeholders in the organization. They need to have a common goal, and finding that common goal is difficult often. And agreeing with a common goal is difficult. Non-persons organization, I do not know what did you really mean with that, but maybe you just meant that the decision making is not done by one organization. And then somebody has written ensures democratic decision making based on reputation and trust rather than stake. Yeah, true, but then again it depends on the implementation. Yeah. It is a type of organization that operates on a blockchain, yes, governed by rules encoded in smart contracts, allowing members to participate in decision making through voting using tokens. Yes, true. So it's a complex stack of smart contracts, and all the organization's rules are encoded in those smart contracts, and the decision making happens through voting or using the smart contract. Yeah. There then another one. There's decentralized body is operated on smart contract, and there is no need without relaying central. Yes. Yes. So you mean that it is governed by smart contracts, and you don't need to rely on the central. Yeah. Okay. Okay, maybe still if somebody is typing, maybe I can wait 1 more minute and then we will go to the slide. But we already got some nice ideas, and I think that if you summarize it, then you will find what is DAO. So different definitions have been posted, but they are pointing to the similar thing. Okay, yeah. 1 more minute I wait and then we go to the slide. Okay. Okay, now we go to the slide. Thanks for this contribution. And then I will now share what I have there uh, that defines this decentralized autonomous organization. Okay, let me share the let me share the slide here. Yeah. Yeah, so DAO means decentralized autonomous organizations. You already know. And yes, so you have already mentioned these things that decentralized autonomous organizations, they are represented by rules encoded as computer program that is transparent, controlled by organizational members, and not influenced by a central authority. Okay. In other words, they are member-owned communities without central leadership. So you can consider an autonomous organization as member-owned community, where there is no boss, no central authority is there. All are equally equal. And how it is implemented? Because it has to be autonomous, and that's why smart contracts. And not on smart contract, there should be a complex stack of smart contracts. Because in the community or in an organization, many functions are there, many different types of functions are there. So you need quite complex smart contracts to encode the community rules or the organizational rules. If there are some payment mechanism, payment rules, voting mechanism, voting rules. So different contracts you need for that community or the organization. So as I have written there, all traditional organizational rules are in smart contracts and runs over the blockchain. They are deployed over the blockchain. Okay. But one very important thing is that if you want the DAO, the organization or the community to be successful, it has to be stable because as it is, member owned and members might have disagreements among themselves. So the blockchain or the DAO needs to be stable. And this is where the comment someone made that this common goal needs to have a common goal, common agreed goal. But then this common goal or agreed goal, common agreed goal in a community is very difficult to achieve. And then blockchain can become or the DAO can become unstable. And then the communities break, split happens. Okay, so that's kind of, the introduction of decentralized autonomous organizations. And then there are different types of DAOs. I mean, as you can already imagine, when you are writing smart contracts, that you can write smart contracts basically for any purpose. And if DAOs are just, combinations of different smart contracts, then you can assume that there could be just different types of DAOs. Many different types of DAOs are possible. And some examples I have given. For example, this first example. So this type of DAOs use blockchain to distribute funds transparently for social causes. So some kind of social cause, maybe social cause, charity, that type of things, that type of issues. Then social DAOs. So social DAOs focus on community engagement. So some kind of social networking platform, but running on blockchain. So community engagement, networking, and collaboration. So these are social DAOs. Okay. Then there are also these collector DAOs. So, and this kind of DAOs can pool funds to acquire valuable digital assets, rare artifacts, and intellectual property. So collector DAOs. So this is just, you can think that there are different types of use cases. We have talked so many times different types of use cases. These are the use cases of DAOs, and not only these, you could think of many other possible DAOs. Venture DAOs operate as decentralized investment funds for Web3 startups and projects. So this is investment. This type of DAOs manage investment funds for Web3 startups and projects. Then media DAOs. They focus on decentralized content creation, curation, and journalism. So all of these different types of platforms for different purposes, but the idea is same. They are smart contracts. They are combinations of multiple. They are multiple complex stack of smart contracts. And we have been trying different smart contracts. Of course, we are trying the simple ones. However, ultimately, when you go and build DAOs, then you need to increase the number of functions in your smart contracts. And then, of course, when we are talking about DAOs or any ecosystem, then there is registration and authentication related steps also come. So I will give you a task at some point how to register a user and then save password and create password with a smart contract. That's task. That's another task we will try today. Yeah. Okay. So that's different types of DAOs, and now different types of DAOs. But one type of DAO, this decentralized finance or DeFi, has become quite popular. Do you know what is decentralized finance, by the way? Anyone? Okay, no problem. I can explain. So think about this, like Bitcoin is a decentralized money, right? So what it can do, it allows you to send and receive money. So from one wallet to another wallet, you can send Bitcoin. Okay. But if you think about the financial activities that we do in the banks, it's not just about sending and receiving money. We do more financial activities, such as we we take loans from bank, and then bank we need to pay back with interest. We can have savings account where we receive interest. So as you can see that there are more activities than just sending and receiving money from one account to another. And then to capture all these financial activities, the concept of decentralized finance came up, but it's not through the bank, through on the blockchain in a decentralized fashion without bank. So this means that lending, borrowing, interest payment all happen with codes or smart contracts. So again, you can see that lending, borrowing, interest payment, everything happens through the smart contract. So it's a complex, again, we can say that it is a complex stack of smart contracts. In other words, decentralized finance DeFis are without centralized leadership that we already know. And as said, it's a complex stack of smart contracts. So all traditional financial rules are in smart contracts and runs over the blockchain. So same similar idea of DAO. So this is for the financing, for the financing purpose. And these applications are called decentralized finance, DeFi applications. Okay. So that's decentralized finance. Why I focused particularly on decentralized finance, because this became quite popular. And then, so we know for now that um, uh, in DAOs, there is no central authority. In any type of blockchain application, central authority is not there. And then the central authority is basically the entity that govern things inside the organization, inside the ecosystem, and so on. But we don't have it in DAOs or in DeFi applications or in any type of blockchain applications. So then the point is how to govern, does this governance happen? Okay. So let's just think of, in a very basic sense, let's think this way. Consider a company or you running a project in your institution. Uh, think about the decision making there. If you think about the organizational decision making, then maybe the CEO makes the decision. Of course, he takes help from CTOs, CFOs, and other people, but CEO is the kind of the central person, or let's say group of people, CEO, CTO, they are the central. And similar to your institution where you are studying. And think about even some projects. You are doing a project in a group with your supervisor. And there also, there is some governance mechanism. Maybe your supervisor has the more decision-making power. So he makes the decision. But the point here is that this kind of decision-making mechanism is centralized and done by the leadership team and CEO or your supervisor or some central people or central entity. But now, if it is a DAO where there is no central authority, everyone is equal, everyone is member equally, then what happens? So DAO governance would need some kind of new mechanism to govern DAO. And the DAO governance here refers to the means of achieving direction, control, and coordination of stakeholders within the context of a given DAO project to which they jointly contribute. So this means that we need to govern the direction, control, and coordination. We need to define the direction, control, and coordination of the stakeholders or or the participants of the DAO. And how do we do that? Why would the different stakeholders participate in the DAO? So there should be some common goal, as you mentioned. There should be some common goal. Or maybe there needs to be some kind of incentive mechanism. Why would someone will join a community? There must be some incentive. There must be some common goal. And you will join that community only when you see that your goal is aligned, you getting some incentive, or you also see that okay, there is a methods of coordination. So that is why here it is written that effective DAO governance or blockchain governance includes incentives, incentive mechanism, and methods of coordination. Now, although I'm talking this thing about the context of DAO, but just put the same idea in the context of Bitcoin. Why the miner as stakeholders participating uh, in the in the Bitcoin network? Because of the incentive. If they find the block, if they find the block, then they are creating new money. They are getting an incentive. So that's why they are participating. And and the protocol, Bitcoin protocol, explains the methods of coordination, how to coordinate among the miners, how to coordinate the whole thing. It is there in the protocol. Okay. So so that's the basic why we need to govern DAOs. And then if we look at different types of governance strategies in the blockchain arena, you will find different types are there. But let's take a look of them to them one by one. The first one, I think there are several strategies, but the first one is some kind of dictatorship. So what it says that the original creator or lead developer has the final say on all decisions. So this looks more like, to some extent, I would say very much centralized. For instance, XRP or Ripple is an example for this. So the lead developer has the final say. So here it's almost like, kind of the CEO taking some decision. And then, so as you can see, that decision making in although all are blockchains, but the decision making varies a lot. Our governance mechanism varies a lot. So even in blockchain, this lead developer or the code developer, original creator, has the final say. And then the next one is governance. This code development team. The core development team or the most active development team has the final say. So they take part. They have more weights in the decision making. And this is mainly used in the open source project. However, it is done a little bit in a democratic way that everyone can propose new features. So in the community, if you think about the Bitcoin community, everyone can propose new features, new extension to the protocol, but the code development team has the final say. So as you can see that although we say that this, blockchain ecosystem is very much decentralized, all are equal, but in fact, you need to have some kind of decision making mechanism, some kind of some responsibility needs to be given to someone to be able to govern the thing, govern the ecosystem. And here, in this case, the core development team has the say. So, but everyone can propose ideas, but then the core development team will make a decision in some kind of and follow some democratic manner and make some decision. Bitcoin, for instance, use this kind of approach. However, the uh, actual decision making is much more complex. It's very complex. So it's not that simple because there are so many stakeholders. For instance, in the Bitcoin network, miners are there, and the miners have their own interest. And then mining machines, some companies, companies are developing mining machines. They have their own interest. And then maybe, and nowadays mining has become very difficult, so there are mining pools. And then it is often seen that mining pools are owned by the mining machine developers. So everything is somehow gets connected, and so many stakeholders in different ways, very complex. And let's say that, okay, development team decided that, okay, new features they have decided to upgrade. However, if the miners don't agree with that, then there will be no one to mine there. So then, if the miners drop out from the ecosystem, then there is no Bitcoin. It will not run. Who will run it? So the whole thing is very much then complex. Yeah. And this is why so much discussion happens in the Bitcoin network. Bitcoin, about Bitcoin, and this is why you will also see that there have been many versions of Bitcoin. Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, and then original Bitcoin, because these miners and then developers, they couldn't really agree. They didn't really have the common goal, basically. They agreed in certain things, but they disagreed in certain other things. So ultimately, then they decided to make a split and then develop their own projects. And this is this is a phenomena very common in open source community. Okay, so these are two approaches, and then more strategies are there. For instance, open governance. So in open governance, basically a team is chosen by the users of the blockchain. So let's say that maybe 10, 15 companies together agreed to do some, develop some blockchain. Maybe they develop some DAOs, but then they decided that, okay, they jointly choose a team who makes the decision. So it could be one, mostly it is not one single organization maybe, but maybe several organizations together making a decision to take part in decision making, but not all. But maybe all can participate, maybe vote or something like that. So to make it more democratic. And this is the point you also raised, mentioned, when I asked what is DAO. So democratic decisions. Then on-chain governance. The rules are already described and stored in the blockchain itself, smart contracts. So in the smart contracts, rules are already there. Everything is stored, and they are you know stored in the chain. So these are all these very basic governance strategy that is mentioned. However, I think, as I was mentioning, that it is not so easy because it is governance in blockchain is very much complex because there are so many stakeholders, so different stakeholders, and their interest and goals are often different, and then sometimes even conflicting. So so it is not, and then there are so many things you need to consider, what kind of algorithm, what kind of uh, what is that consensus mechanism you need to have, and so on. So there are so many things to be considered. So in 2022, these guys, this Stan and other his colleagues, they wrote a paper on blockchain governance in the public sector and try to come up with a conceptual framework. And they basically showed that if you want to develop some blockchain system for the public or in any context, to be honest, the governance need to be at least in 3 levels. So it's quite complex than what we thought in the previous slides. So in 3 levels means from the left you can see in the micro level, meso level, and macro level. So in the micro level, you need to consider the governance related stuffs on a very narrow topics, narrow things. For instance, you can need to consider about the infrastructure. You need to consider issues such as whether you are going to make it permissionless or permissioned, who gets the permission, and who, if it is a public or private blockchain, or if it is permissioned, who has the right permission, who has the reading permission, and so on. So these kind of things you need to consider. Okay, in the micro level. Then the next one is this meso level. So meso level is little higher level, and in this higher level uh, you need to consider the organizational processes where it's not anymore this kind of narrow things, but a little bit broader organizational process related things. And there you need to consider, for instance, interoperability with existing system, decision making mechanism, for instance, on-chain decision, off-chain decisions, type of incentives. As I was telling the previous slide, that if you want to make the DAO, there needs to be the incentive, some kind of incentive, so that the stakeholders participate. And then you need to consider about whether it is proof of work, proof of stake, the consensus mechanism you need to consider in this meso level. And that will also dictate the decision making mechanism and an incentive. Okay, and then comes even higher level, macro level. And in the macro level, the focus is even broader. So there you don't need you consider even broader things. For instance, you deal with things like institutional rules, norms of the society, and so on. For instance, uh, you talk about look at the regulation and enforcement of rules. Then based on that, you distribute roles and responsibility. So the thing is, overall, what this paper suggests that if you want to have a governance mechanism of your decentralized autonomous organization, then you need to consider different things and at different level: micro level, meso level, and macro level. Then, so that is, one type of complexity. But then some of the researchers then found that the complexity is even much higher. And yesterday I was mentioning about the complexity related business cases. Yeah, I mean business model. That is definitely one complexity. But we have some other complexity as well. And here we are talking about those other complexity. So for instance, it is if you think about a decentralized autonomous organization. So or even let's not think about the decentralized autonomous organization, but let's think of just Bitcoin. So in the Bitcoin, you have a community of developers, community of miners, and so on. And then you have another developer community where they develop things, this off-chain development. And then you have this actual on-chain protocol, means the protocol of Bitcoin. So as you can see, already there are different layers of community. So off-chain community. So if you read the description, in off-chain community, as the highest of the three layers, the off-chain community layer encompasses the governance matters taking place in real world with a focus on the wider community of a project. It highlights how a project is defined more generally and captures the ties of the community to the governance layers below. So what it says that you need to govern this off-chain, this community. So in this off-chain community, you must need to assign roles. If you look at this, left table, you need to assign roles. You need to define the incentives, membership, who can do what, communication, how do they communicate with each other, and then decision making. Similarly, in the off-chain development community, you need to explain also, you need to also define, give the roles, incentives, membership, communications, and decision making. So what it suggests that, as in an ecosystem, there are different layers of community. So, and in each community, you need to identify these roles and incentives and so on in order to function that. Okay. And then if you think about this and put it in the context of Bitcoin, you will see that it has been why it has been so chaotic, because people don't just agree with each other. Developers don't agree with each other, then miners don't agree with each other, and that's why many splits have happened. So all boils down to governance, and also things boil down to, I would say the goal, the shared goal. Sometimes the goals are not shared. So considering all these aspects, then this kind of DAO governance framework they have proposed. For instance, in off-chain community, on the left side of this figure, in the off-chain community, if you think about the roles, then you need to think these kind of questions. What roles are defined within the community? Are there observable hierarchical structure between these roles? Are the accountabilities assigned to the roles? And then in the off-chain development, these kind of questions you need to think and you need to assign the roles. What are the available roles related to development? Are there observable hierarchical structure between the roles? Which responsibilities and accountabilities are assigned to these roles? So all are about this role assignment in the different community, different governance layers. Then incentives. If you look at the incentives, then in the off-chain community layer, you need to think what are the associated incentives for the available community roles. Do these incentives include monetary or non-monetary rewards? Yeah, because sometimes incentive is monetary, sometimes it could be even non-monetary, depending on the type of blockchain ecosystem or DAO. Then incentive for off-chain development, what are the associated incentives for the available development roles? Are developers paid? How is funding arranged for the developers? So as you can see that, governance is basically capturing everything. And then, communication, if you look at the communication, what are the media used for community discussions? How does the community achieve agreement? Is there some kind of voting system? What media used for development discussion, if it is from the development community? Yeah, how does the discussion in development take place? How do they select which development path they should pick? So all these kind of things need to be well understood. Okay, so this is the complete governance framework that that you need to consider. It's not just about technical thing. Then you need to consider these things in order to make it running. Then and then if you are not able to get everyone under the same umbrella, then what happens? Or there are some disagreements in the community, then what happens? Then a split happens. So ineffective governance, if the governance is ineffective, if the people, I mean the stakeholders do not agree on things, that can lead to a split. And you know that the forks are the mechanism to upgrade things, to change the development path, and then splits can happen. Okay. So, but a question to you: do you know what is fork?
Sir, a type of side chain to the blockchain.
Y- Uh, yeah, that can be considered as fork if you. So any type of new rules or upgrade can be considered fork. Yeah.
To
Okay.
scalable. A block.
Yeah, yeah, to make it scalable. Yeah, to make it scalable, some changes in the protocol sometimes are done and then that is called fork. Yeah. Yeah. So the thing is, a blockchain fork refers to the change in blockchain's rules that effectively leads to a separation into two or more potential paths. So some kind of upgrade. But then, due to that upgrade, what can happen is that if people or miners, let's say, don't agree with the upgrade, then there is a chance that there is a split or two or more potential paths are created. So forks can split a blockchain either a temporary or permanent basis. So let's say that you made an upgrade. I think the core development team decided to make an upgrade, and then some miners joined. Some miners updated their updated themselves, but then some others they didn't upgrade. So then we have two, and then they just continued like this. So then we have two blockchains in parallel running. Yeah. But then if all miners agree, then they just join the upgraded one, or they just stay on the one that was previously there. So, but anyway, the point is that fork is something that can split the blockchain either temporarily or in a permanent basis. And there are two types of forks, soft fork and hard fork. And why I'm saying, bringing this fork thing in the governance discussion, because the thing is, DAO governance, uh, if the in the as there is no central entity, so oftentimes you will see that the participants or the stakeholders they don't agree on things. So there is a huge possibility sometimes to split. So that's why I brought this fork thing into a discussion. So as said that there are two types of fork, soft fork and hard fork. So let's take a look on the soft fork. So soft fork is a backward compatible software upgrade that splits the blockchain temporarily. So soft fork is something that is a temporary thing, and it is backward compatible. So during the soft fork process, the original chain accepts blocks from both upgraded and non-upgraded nodes. Okay. And then the fork chain contains blocks only from the upgraded nodes. And then the upgraded nodes must reach a consensus and gain a certain percentage of the network processing power within a time limit. Otherwise, the soft fork fails and the original chain continues. Are you getting the idea? So in the fork chain, the upgraded nodes are working, and the goal is that they have to get a certain percentage of the network processing power. Means that more miners should join, more nodes should join there. If they join, then the soft fork works, and then everyone then goes to the new chain. But if it doesn't happen, then that soft fork fails, and the previous version is then valid. If the consensus is reached, the new rules are implemented in the network. All nodes then have to upgrade, or else will be mining unrecognized blocks. And if this means that if the soft fork is successful, if certain amount of processing power has been received, then that's the valid chain, and everyone has to upgrade. Otherwise, they will not be mining recognized blocks. So that's soft fork. But it is, as said, it is backward compatible. But then the hard fork is one that may lead to permanent split in the blockchain. It can lead to permanent split. A hard fork is not backward compatible. It permanently creates two separate blockchains. So in that case, both chains, or let's say, both community, if you transfer it to in DAOs, both DAOs run in parallel, but with different sets of rules. So hard forks are executed to handle acute issues such as increasing the block size, serious network abuse, or threat. This Ether DAO, Ether and Ethereum Classic, were created from Ethereum as a result of hard fork because there was some hack. I think back in 2016, that was the very early days of DAOs. Uh, some severe hack happened, and from that point, this Ethereum Classic and Ethereum ETH were created after the hard fork. And for as said, that forks can split the blockchain. Uh, the hard fork can split the blockchain on permanent basis. And hard forks have also been executed in Bitcoin network, for instance. And because of these hard forks, this Bitcoin Cash is there, and Bitcoin Gold is there. So they changed the block size. So if you know that Bitcoin's original block size is 1 megabyte, but I don't remember what is the size of Bitcoin Cash, but it's probably higher than 1 megabyte. And this is how they made it a little faster and made it scalable. A little scalable, they increase the scalability a little more. Yeah. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. If there are no questions, then I would like you to introduce another task for today, and this is yes, this one. So okay, so what you need to do, you need to write a smart contract again using the same language, same tool in in Remix. But then, for instance, this is very important, like doing user registration and then login, and then this authentication and a login. These things are kind of the basic of any platform. So I thought that you could try to write a small, very short, very simple smart contract where you do user registration and login functions. And when the user will register, the user can set the password, but the password will be stored in hash form. in the blockchain. Try that. If you cannot do this much advance, then you can just set the password. You don't need to hash it. Just set the password. So you would have to register, and there are two functions: registration function and then login function. Okay, and the user sets the password. Okay, and in the login function, you need to check if the password is correct. And in the registration, the user sets the password. And as said, if you can make it hashed, then store it in hash form. If not, then just keep it normal. And I do not know how much time it will take, but now I will